I went through my cousin Beverly's closet, and I found a treasure. Tomorrow night, Roseanne, you will be the belle of the ball.
I'd rather wear the bag.
From a naked photo of George Clooney hidden on set to a bizarre feud involving car vandalism and angry Polaroids, the groundbreaking sitcom that defined working-class TV had more wild behind-the-scenes drama than most reality shows. What appeared to be a wholesome family comedy masked creative battles, eccentric pranks, and one of television's most shocking finale twists. Here are 15 weird facts you didn't know about Roseanne. Fact 1. Roseanne cut Becky's hair with scissors.
Why don't you have any money?
Well, I did, but I blew it on tube socks for DJ. Damn, I hate myself.
When you're working on a hit television show, there are usually a lot of people who have to approve even the smallest changes to how a character looks. But Roseanne Barr didn't really care about following those rules. Alicia Goranson, who played the oldest Connor daughter Becky, wanted to cut her hair shorter between seasons because she felt it would better suit her character and her own personal style. She brought this request to the show's producers, expecting them to understand that a simple haircut wouldn't be a big deal, but they turned her down flat and told her she needed to keep her hair long. Most actors would have just accepted the decision and moved on, figuring they'd have to wait until the show ended to make any changes to their appearance. But Goranson wasn't ready to give up that easily. She decided to take her case directly to Roseanne Barr herself, bypassing the producers who had already said no. Roseanne listened to what Goranson wanted and immediately understood why the young actress was frustrated with the situation. Rather than going back to the producers to negotiate or have another meeting about it, Roseanne came up with her own solution that nobody could have predicted. She walked over to wherever they kept scissors on the set, grabbed a pair, and started cutting Goranson's hair right then and there. There was no professional hairstylist involved, no careful planning about the style, just Roseanne hacking away at the young actress's hair until it was short. Once the hair was already cut, there was nothing the producers could do about it except accept the new look, and Goranson finally got the hairstyle she'd been asking for all along. Fact 2. George Clooney's naked photo mystery.
Who's Jimmy?
You don't know him. He's in high school.
Oh, excuse me.
Jimmy Meltrigger's the varsity quarterback.
Ooh. Well, tell him no taking a snap on the first date.
Before George Clooney became one of Hollywood's biggest movie stars, he was just another working actor trying to make it in television. And one of his early roles was playing Booker Brooks on Roseanne during the show's first season. During that time, according to reports from people who worked on the set, there was a rather unusual photograph taped to the refrigerator in one of the common areas where the cast and crew would gather. The photo allegedly showed George Clooney completely naked, except for a pair of novelty eyeglasses with a fake nose and mustache attached, the kind that are sometimes called Groucho Marx glasses, which he was supposedly using to cover his private parts. The story behind how this photo came to exist is just as strange as the image itself, according to the rumors that circulated among the cast and crew. Either John Goodman or Roseanne Barr herself took the photograph one night after the three of them had gone out drinking together. Apparently, the evening got wild enough that someone convinced Clooney to pose for this compromising picture, and whoever snapped the photo thought it would be funny to display it prominently on the set refrigerator where everyone could see it. For a while, the photo became a fixture of the Roseanne set, and cast members and crew would walk by it regularly as they went about their work. Then one day, without any explanation or announcement, the photograph simply vanished from the refrigerator. Nobody ever came forward to admit taking it down, and nobody could say for certain what happened to it or where it ended up. The mysterious disappearance only added to the legend of the photo, leaving everyone to wonder whether Clooney himself quietly removed it, or if someone else decided it was time for the joke to end. Fact 3. Macaulay Culkin almost played DJ.
There's Daddy and me and Becky and you. Where's Darlene?
Right there.
That looks like a bunch of flowers.
I know, that's her grave.
The role of DJ Connor, the youngest child in the Connor family, could have gone to one of the most famous child actors of the 1990s if the network executives had gotten their way during the casting process. Macaulay Culkin, who would go on to become a household name just 2 years later when he starred in Home Alone, auditioned for the part of DJ when Roseanne was first being cast in 1988. The ABC network executives were very interested in hiring Culkin for the role because they saw something special in him and thought he would be perfect for the show. But Roseanne Barr had a completely different vision for who should play her on-screen son. Michael Fishman also auditioned for the role, and even though he was competing against other more polished young actors who had typical Hollywood looks, Roseanne immediately felt a connection to him. She later explained during a reunion show that she wanted Michael Fishman specifically because he looked like he could actually be part of her real family, describing him as a little Russian boy who fit the authentic working-class aesthetic she was trying to create with the show. Culkin, with his blonde hair and blue eyes, simply didn't match the look that Roseanne had in mind for the Connor family, even though the network was pushing hard for him to get the part. This became one of the first major battles between Roseanne and the network executives, but she stood her ground and refused to back down on this casting decision. Eventually, she won the fight, and Michael Fishman was hired to play DJ, a role he would keep throughout the entire original run of the show. Meanwhile, Culkin's career turned out just fine without Roseanne, as he became one of the biggest child stars in movie history. Fact 4. The explosive premiere night screaming match. What should have been a celebration turned into one of the most uncomfortable moments in television history when the cast and crew gathered together to watch the very first episode of Roseanne air on October 18, 1988. Everyone was excited to see the premiere of the show they had all worked so hard to create, but the mood changed dramatically when the opening credits rolled and revealed that producer Matt Williams was listed as the sole creator of the series. Roseanne Barr had expected to see her own name prominently featured in the credits since she believed the entire concept of the show was based on her real life and her stand-up comedy routine about being a working-class mother. When she saw that Williams had received all the credit while her name was nowhere to be found as a creator, Roseanne didn't wait until after the party to voice her feelings about what she considered a betrayal. Right there in front of the entire cast and crew who had gathered to celebrate, she started screaming at Matt Williams, accusing him of stealing her life stories and taking credit for work that she felt belonged to her. She argued that the show's scripts drew heavily from her actual experiences as a mother and wife, and that Williams had simply taken those personal stories and claimed them as his own creative property, without giving her the recognition she deserved. Williams defended himself by explaining that the Writers Guild of America determines who receives creator credits based on their official rules and procedures, and that he personally had nothing to do with making that decision. Despite his explanation, the damage was done, and the relationship between Roseanne and Williams never recovered from that explosive confrontation, with Williams leaving the show after just one season. Fact 5. Joss Whedon wrote Buffy while sidelined. Long before Joss Whedon became one of the most influential creators in television history, he was just a 24-year-old writer trying to break into the industry by joining the writer's room for Roseanne during the show's second season. Whedon was hired because the producers saw potential in his writing abilities, but things didn't go smoothly for him once he actually started working on the show. His very first episode ran into major problems when the producers decided they wanted to make significant changes to the story he had written, including altering a plotline where he originally wanted the character Jackie to have an abortion, which the network changed to a miscarriage instead. After that rocky start, Whedon continued writing scripts for the show, but the producers kept reworking everything he submitted to the point where his original ideas were barely recognizable in the final versions that made it to air. The situation became so frustrating for everyone involved that the producers eventually decided to sideline Whedon rather than keep fighting over every script he turned in. However, because he was still under contract and they had to pay him regardless of whether he was actively writing for the show, the producers told him he might as well use his time to work on whatever personal projects he wanted to develop. This turned out to be one of the best things that could have happened to Whedon's career, because he used that time to write the screenplay for Buffy the Vampire Slayer. The movie version came out in 1992 and wasn't particularly successful, but it eventually led to the television series that premiered in 1997 and made Whedon famous. So while his time on Roseanne didn't work out the way anyone expected, getting paid to develop his own material ended up launching his entire career. Fact 6. John Goodman never auditioned with others.
You just couldn't wait to give him his very first sip of beer, could you?
I had to. The hooker made him nervous.
Dan!
When it came time to cast the crucial role of Dan Connor, the husband and father at the center of the show, the producers knew they needed someone who could match Roseanne Barr's energy and create believable chemistry with her from the very first moment they appeared on screen together. John Goodman came in to read for the part, and what happened during that audition was so perfect that the producers immediately knew they had found their Dan and didn't need to see anyone else. The moment Goodman walked into the room and sat down next to Roseanne to do their first scene together, he looked at her and said, "Scoot over," in a casual, comfortable way that felt completely natural. Roseanne responded by telling him to shut up, and the two of them fell into an easy back-and-forth banter that didn't feel like two actors meeting for the first time, but rather like a married couple who had been together for decades. Creator Matt Williams later recalled that watching them interact during that initial reading made it seem like they had been married for 16 years already, even though they had just met moments before. The chemistry was so immediate and so strong that the producers didn't bother bringing in any other actors to compete for the role, which is almost unheard of in the casting process for a major television series. The producers were particularly concerned about surrounding Roseanne with talented actors because she had never acted before and only had experience as a stand-up comedian. They needed strong performers who could help her learn on the job, and executive producer Marcy Carsey explained that they had to cast the best possible actors around her so she could learn from them and grow into the role as the series continued. Fact 7. The bewitched meta-joke about recasting.
Hold it. Could this woman be my little Becky?
Not Oliver. If I were you, I'd check upstairs for some missing Kleenex.
The writers of Roseanne had a great sense of humor about one of the most noticeable changes that happened during the show's run, which was replacing the actress who played Becky Connor halfway through the series. Alicia Goranson had originated the role of the oldest Connor daughter, but she left the show after season 5 to attend college, and Sarah Chalke was brought in to take over the part starting in season 6. This kind of recasting is always awkward for a television show because viewers obviously notice when a completely different person suddenly starts playing a character they've been watching for years. But the Roseanne writers decided to acknowledge the elephant in the room in the most clever way possible. At the very end of Sarah Chalke's first episode as the new Becky, the writers included a scene where the entire Connor family is sitting together watching an old episode of the classic 1960s sitcom Bewitched on television. The family starts discussing the fact that Bewitched famously replaced the actor who played Darren, the main character's husband, partway through the show's run when Dick York left and Dick Sargent took over the role. The Connor family members make jokes about how stupid the producers of Bewitched must have thought the audience was to believe that no one would notice they had completely replaced one of the main characters with a different actor who looked nothing like the original. The joke was clearly the writers poking fun at themselves and their own decision to recast Becky, basically admitting that yes, they knew everyone could tell it was a different actress, and yes, they understood how ridiculous it was to pretend otherwise. It was a self-aware moment that showed the writers weren't taking themselves too seriously. Fact 8. Season 9 was absolutely fabulous. Revenge.
Hey, Pat! Need any help with those drinks?
Yeah, thanks, old man.
One of the main reasons why the 9th and final season of Roseanne felt so dramatically different from everything that came before, it has to do with a failed business deal involving a completely separate television show. During the 1990s, Roseanne Barr became a huge fan of the British comedy series Absolutely Fabulous, which was about two wealthy women living outrageous lifestyles filled with drinking and partying. She loved the show so much that she actually purchased the United States rights to it with the intention of creating an American version. And she even had plans to cast specific actresses, including Carrie Fisher and Barbara Carrera, in the lead roles. However, when Roseanne tried to sell her American remake of Absolutely Fabulous to various television networks, none of them were interested in picking it up for production. She was frustrated and angry that the networks had rejected her project after she had invested time and money into acquiring the rights. So she decided to find another way to bring elements of Absolutely Fabulous to American television, whether the networks liked it or not. Her solution was to transform the 9th season of her own show into what some people started calling Roseanne Fab, incorporating storylines and themes from the British comedy directly into the Connor family's adventures. The season had the family winning the lottery and suddenly living a wealthy lifestyle, which allowed Roseanne to include more focus on gay characters and wild party scenes similar to what appeared in Absolutely Fabulous. She even managed to get Jennifer Saunders and Joanna Lumley, the two stars of the British show, to appear as guest stars playing their original Absolutely Fabulous characters in an episode, making the connection between the two shows completely obvious to anyone who was paying attention. Fact 9. The Parking Lot War with Seinfeld.
It's okay as long as I give Kevin Morgan 2 Twinkies every day, he won't beat me up.
No, it's not okay. You can't go through life giving in to bullies.
But I want to live!
Two of the biggest sitcoms of the 1990s ended up in a bizarre feud that started over something as simple as a parking space at CBS Studio Center, where both Roseanne and Seinfeld were filmed during the early part of that decade. Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who played Elaine on Seinfeld, accidentally parked her car in a spot that was designated for Tom Arnold, who was not only an actor on Roseanne, but was also married to Roseanne Barr at the time. According to Louis-Dreyfus, a parking attendant at the studio had actually told her to park in that particular spot, so she had no idea she was taking someone else's assigned space. When Tom Arnold discovered that his parking spot had been taken, he was furious and decided to leave a note on the windshield of Louis-Dreyfus's car, expressing his anger in very direct terms, using profanity. Louis-Dreyfus was understandably upset when she found the hostile note, so she told her Seinfeld co-stars, Larry David and Jason Alexander, about what had happened, and the three of them went to confront Arnold about his aggressive response to what had been an innocent mistake. Rather than calming things down, the confrontation only made the situation worse and led to an escalation that nobody could have predicted. Soon after the meeting, Louis-Dreyfus returned to her car and found 2 disturbing items waiting for her. Someone had left a Polaroid photograph showing John Goodman's naked rear end under her windshield wiper, and they had also used soap to write vulgar insults on her windshield. Tom Arnold later claimed that Roseanne Barr herself was responsible for both the photo and the soap message, turning what started as a parking dispute into a full-blown feud between the casts of 2 competing shows. Fact 10. Sarah Gilbert attended Yale remotely.
Becky? DJ made a sundial out of birth control pill.
What? It even tells the days of the week.
Most television shows would simply replace an actor if they decided to leave and go to college. But the producers of Roseanne valued Sarah Gilbert's performance as Darlene Connor so much that they were willing to do whatever it took to keep her in the cast even after she was accepted to Yale University. Gilbert had been playing the sarcastic middle child of the Connor family since she was a young teenager, and her character had become such an important part of the show that the producers couldn't imagine continuing without her. When she told them she wanted to pursue her education at one of the most prestigious universities in the country, they could have given her an ultimatum, forcing her to choose between the show and her academic dreams, but instead, they came up with a creative solution that would allow her to do both. The producers completely rearranged their production schedule and reworked storylines to accommodate Gilbert's class schedule. At Yale, which is located in New Haven, Connecticut, thousands of miles away from where Roseanne was filmed in California. They set up a special arrangement where Gilbert could film her scenes at a soundstage in New York City, which was much closer to her university campus than flying all the way back to the West Coast every time she needed to appear in an episode. This meant that the writers had to carefully plan which scenes Darlene would be in and create situations where it made sense for her character to be filmed separately from the rest of the family. The entire production team worked around Gilbert's academic calendar to make sure she could get her degree while still being part of the show, which demonstrates just how valuable they considered her contribution to Roseanne and how committed they were to supporting her future beyond acting. Fact 11. Disney forced theme park episodes.
Becky, what do you think of this dress?
Stick a few candles in it and make a wish.
When the Walt Disney Company purchased ABC in the mid-1990s, the network's programming suddenly had to serve a dual purpose of entertaining audiences while also promoting Disney's various business interests. One of the most obvious examples of this corporate synergy came in the form of a directive that was sent down from Disney executives requiring characters from multiple ABC sitcoms to visit Disney theme parks as part of their storylines. This wasn't a creative decision made by the writers or producers of these shows, but rather a mandate from the corporate level designed to use popular television series as advertisements for Disney's vacation destinations. Roseanne was one of several ABC shows that had to comply with this requirement, and the Connor family ended up taking not one, but 2 separate trips to Walt Disney World in Florida during the show's 8th season. Other ABC sitcoms that aired around the same time also had to incorporate Disney park visits into their episodes, including Full House, Family Matters, Boy Meets World, and Step by Step, making it clear that this was a coordinated effort across the entire network rather than individual shows, all coincidentally deciding their characters needed a Disney vacation at the same time. For a show like Roseanne that prided itself on depicting the realistic struggles of a working-class family that could barely afford to pay their bills, having the Connors suddenly take expensive trips to Disney World felt out of place and broke the carefully established tone of the series. The episode served as a reminder that even critically acclaimed and popular shows have to answer to corporate ownership, and sometimes creative decisions get overridden by business interests that have nothing to do with storytelling. Fact 12. The boom mic kept dropping.
I'm ordering new children.
Yeah? Well, why don't we trade Becky in for a partially tattooed Latin boy of 16?
Because that's my Christmas present to myself.
One of the most basic rules of television production is that the equipment used to capture audio and video should never be visible to the audience watching at home. But Roseanne had a recurring problem with this that became more and more noticeable as the series went on. The boom microphone, which is a long pole with a microphone attached to the end that's held above the actors to record their dialogue, kept accidentally dipping down into the frame where the cameras could see it. This happened so frequently throughout the series that fans who watched carefully could spot the boom mic appearing at the top of the screen in numerous episodes, especially during the later seasons of the show. What makes this technical error even more surprising is that it wasn't just a one-time mistake that slipped through during editing, but rather a persistent problem that kept happening over and over again across multiple seasons. In most professional television productions, when a boom mic accidentally drops into the shot, someone in the editing room would catch it and either use a different take or find a way to fix the problem before the episode aired. However, on Roseanne, these shots with visible boom microphones made it all the way through the entire production process and ended up being broadcast to millions of viewers without anyone noticing or caring enough to fix them. The fact that this problem became worse in the later seasons suggests that either the production crew was getting less careful about avoiding these kinds of mistakes, or the people in charge of quality control during editing weren't paying as much attention to technical details as they should have been. Either way, it became one of the show's most noticeable and persistent continuity errors. Fact 13. David's name was originally Kevin.
First of all, there will be no holding hands. Be no hanky-panky. There will be no smoochy-woochy. And there will be none of that other stuff you're not supposed to know about.
Can we still date?
If you want, but...
Johnny Galecki's character went through a significant identity change between his first appearance on Roseanne and the rest of his time on the show, though most viewers probably didn't notice the switch when it happened. When the character was first introduced as the younger brother of Mark Healy, who was dating the oldest Connor daughter Becky, he was called Kevin Healy rather than David Healy. The writers apparently decided later that Kevin wasn't the right name for the character, so they simply started calling him David in subsequent episodes, without offering any explanation for why his name had suddenly changed. This kind of continuity error is particularly noticeable on a show that ran for as many seasons as Roseanne did, because dedicated fans who watched from the beginning would remember that the character had originally been introduced with a completely different first name. Rather than just hoping no one would notice or care about the inconsistency, the writers eventually decided to address it head-on by creating a storyline that attempted to explain away the name change. In a 6th season episode, Roseanne tells someone that David isn't even the character's real name, claiming that her daughter Darlene simply made it up because she has so much control and influence over him. The explanation was meant to suggest that Darlene had basically given her boyfriend a new identity because she wanted to, which fit with her domineering personality on the show. However, this retcon didn't really make logical sense because it implied that everyone in both families, including David's own brother Mark, would have gone along with calling him by a completely different name just because Darlene decided she preferred it, which seemed like a stretch even for a sitcom. Fact 14. Jerry Garcia appeared in A Psychedelic Birth. Roseanne was known for celebrating Halloween with elaborate themed episodes every year. But the Season 8 Halloween episode took things to an entirely different level when it combined the holiday with the birth of Roseanne and Dan's 4th child. The episode aired in October of 1995, just a few months after Jerry Garcia, the legendary lead guitarist and vocalist of the Grateful Dead, had passed away in August of that same year. Roseanne was a fan of Garcia and his music. So when her character went into labor on Halloween night in the episode, the writers decided to honor his memory in the strangest possible way. As Roseanne's character is lying in the hospital waiting to give birth, she falls into a dream state and begins having the kind of vivid hallucinations that you might expect from someone who had taken psychedelic substances. In her dream, she has a full conversation with Jerry Garcia himself, discussing spiritual topics like connections and vibrations in a way that referenced the counterculture philosophy that Garcia and the Grateful Dead were associated with during the 1960s and 70s. The scene didn't stop with just the conversation, because suddenly a group of dancers dressed in tie-dyed clothing appeared in her hospital room and performed an elaborate dance routine while she watched. The entire sequence was filmed with bright colors and swirling visual effects to create the feeling of a psychedelic experience, making it one of the most surreal moments in the entire run of the series. When Roseanne finally wakes up from her hallucinogenic dream, she discovers that she has already given birth to a baby boy, and she decides to name him Jerry Garcia Connor in tribute to the musician who appeared in her vision. Fact 15. The baby's gender changed between seasons.
Okay, Jackie, I think it's time to turn off the
No,
computer.
not now, David. I'm learning useful things. I'm growing as a person.
You're in the Urkel chat room.
One of the most glaring continuity errors in the entire series happened when Roseanne's character was pregnant with her fourth child, and the baby's gender mysteriously changed between 2 consecutive seasons without any explanation being offered to the audience. During season 7, the show revealed through dialogue and storylines that Roseanne was expecting a baby girl, and the family made plans and had conversations based on the assumption that they would soon be welcoming a daughter into the household. However, when season 8 arrived and Roseanne actually gave birth in the Halloween episode, the baby turned out to be a boy who was named Jerry Garcia Connor. This wasn't a case where the writers had intentionally created some kind of twist or surprise about the baby's gender, but rather a real-world situation that forced them to change their plans for the show. Roseanne Barr explained later that the reason for the switch was that she had gotten pregnant in her actual life while the show was being filmed, and when she found out through medical tests that she was going to have a boy. In reality, the writers decided to change the fictional baby on the show to match her real pregnancy. This decision allowed them to incorporate her actual pregnancy into the storyline, rather than trying to hide it with camera tricks and loose-fitting clothing. The choice to align the show's baby with Roseanne's real-life situation made practical sense from a production standpoint, but it created a significant continuity problem that observant viewers would have noticed immediately. The show never addressed the contradiction or tried to explain why the baby that had been referred to as a girl for an entire season suddenly became a boy.